Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a good show planned for you today. Today's show is sponsored to you by Counting on Chicago Coalition, an unprecedented group of 30 human service organizations that have joined forces to leverage their deep channels and connections to hard to reach populations. I'm sorry, they got cross channels somewhere to make sure they are counted in the 2020 census. Counting on Chicago has been awarded a $2.3 million grant to reach out to hundreds of thousands of Chicagoans across 13 communities. Be counted this year. Census go to www.my2020census.gov or call 844-330-2020. The number again, 844-33-2020. So if you have any questions, please go to Counting on Chicago Coalition. And again, 30 human service organizations that have joined forces to leverage their deep channels and connections to hard to reach populations in our communities. So kudos to them. Tonight, my guest is an entrepreneur, community leader, and now former morning host on WVON. We welcome back every time we have something going on in the community. We reach out to the one and only Maze Jackson. Welcome to the drive, sir.
What's up, Roman? And thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be at Intellectual Radio. Shout out to my man, Earl Winfrey. One of the very first brothers to say, hey, man, you need a show. And I was, man, a little over 3.5, maybe 4 years ago when we were at the other location. And I did a show every Monday night, Intellectual Radio. So shout out. It's always good to be here. Great to see how you guys have expanded. Man, you make a brother feel like I'm slacking. Goodness gracious. I got to step my game up. Yes, but always a pleasure to be here with Intellectual Radio. And you too, Roman. Man, we go all the way back to when you were an intern at V103. And I used to be like, who is this kid? And now look at you, got your own show doing your thing, man. Proud of you. What's going on?
Thanks. I remember the time that you was like, come on, let's go for a promotion, right? So there's a lot to get to tonight. So let's get started.
Okay.
A lot of people want to know what the hell happened to you on your show and on WVON. Can you explain to us what happened and why it happened that caused you to resign?
First of all, let me send a big shout out to WVON. Big shout out to Melody Span Cooper, to the voice of the Negro, and say that I am honored to have had the opportunity to sit in front of that mic and provide that service or be able to share my opinions for those years. Sometimes we all grow and we have to go in our different directions. Roman and I have had the honor to do that show. I've had the opportunity to do that show for a long time, and sometimes you outgrow it, and sometimes you outgrow, and some of the topics and some of the things that you may talk about may not mesh with where the station is wanting to go. So with that in mind, what basically happened was there were issues that I was trying to, how can I say? There were issues that I felt were important to the Black community that were not a priority to management. And so,
What are those issues? Can you elaborate?
I think that the biggest issues are right now we are at a unique time right here in Chicago. We saw the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago burn. We saw Black families being assaulted and being pulled out of their cars because the mayor's office decided that they wanted to engage street outreach workers in the protection of our neighborhoods. And something in that mix was pretty volatile. And with basically, as I began to uncover the story and it became a national story, basically the brakes were put on, and let me just say, I was just told that I could no longer talk about the mayor, could no longer mention the mayor, could no longer say anything that related to the mayor. And so, with that in mind, how do you do a political show in Chicago without being able to talk about that? And then at the unique time that we're in. So, with that in mind, it's, sometimes you face a moral dilemma, right? I, brother, am an entrepreneur. I'm not an employee. I've never operated like an employee in all of my life. I've been an entrepreneur for all of my time. And so, but I also, as an entrepreneur, know what it's like to be the boss, right? And so, it the boss says the boss wants what the boss wants. You got to rock with that, or you move. I chose simply to move. No ill will, no hard feelings, just time for me to grow. My message was obviously not the message that needed to be delivered at from that medium at that time.
Some people would say, well, Maze, it, it it's hard to put a leash on you. From the beginning, they should have known what they were getting into because you were very vocal. You were vocal on the Chicago Defender.
Which I was also summarily dismissed from. And let me just say this.
But what I'm getting to is sometimes you already know what you're getting into before someone hires you. You know what you're getting to, like a Rush Limbaugh. All the stuff that he has said
Mhm.
about presidents, about Barack Obama,
Okay.
but they didn't silence him. And every single time, if it comes to us, like you said something that was key, WVON. Ever since it's been bought by Infinity, we don't hear the acronym Voice of the Negro anymore.
So let me
Meaning,
start here. Let me do
okay,
this though,
go ahead,
because
go
what I
ahead.
want to do, Roman, is I don't want to. One of the things that I'm pretty adamant about right now, and even as I've been on air and I continue to move air, I'm not going to look to denigrate anyone else, right,
Mhm.
or take away from them. I'm not going to speak on. Look, the messaging that the station chooses to message is their business. I'm not here to knock that. You know who you are when you get me. I know who I am when I walk in the door, and I'm pretty clear as to how that works. Now, at the point in which we come to a conflict, we come to a road, and there's a battle of the wills, uh, I, as compared to violate my own personal standards, I then chose to walk away. As compared to, I don't want to say compared to compromise, but there are certain things that I just can't compromise on. And that one of those things is my voice. I only have one voice over the course of not just the 3 years I was there, but over the course of the multiple years that I have been in Chicago. People can say they don't like me, they can say a lot of things, but they don't say I lie, right? And so what I wanted to do was make sure that I left with my reputation and my integrity the way that I operate intact. But that's not to disparage the station. I'm not gonna knock them. It's just I have to do what's right for me. When my child, when my kids, when black families, when black women, when black whoever calls me and says I got a problem, even if I don't like you, I feel obligated to help. That is the case. That's where I'm going to operate, and that's where I'll be. And it doesn't make a difference whether I'm at Intellectual Radio, whether I'm at WVON, whether I am at my new station at WWGBX, wherever it is. What you know is that you're going to get the raw, unadulterated truth from Maze Jackson. And in the event that I can't give it, then I won't be there. So that's the way I see it.
In today's black media, there is a problem calling black politicians out
Yes.
for not doing the right thing by the black community, for the black community. Is that part of the problem that you are a host and you cannot call a spade in the black community?
So funny state of spade in the black community. That's pretty cool. I see how you did that right there. All right. Here's what I think. I think that we have come to a point of comfortable complacency. Um, we have come to a point in our community where our elected officials, um, black and white, and I think blacks set the standard, and white folks just fall in line behind it. I mean, they don't care about us necessarily, and if the black folks don't push, then they're not worried about it either. What I think happens is in our community we have a lack of economics, so we don't have a lot of business people, and so essentially what happens in our community is preachers and politicians assume the role of royalty in our community. And so because we don't have multiple millionaires rolling through doing all their things, we think of those guys because they get the most respect, right? And they get the highest esteem. And so essentially they have been put in a position where they have been elevated to not servants, but royalty in our community. So you see people running and willing to try and take a picture with people who have, in some cases, presided over the demise of our communities. I asked this question the other day. What is the most tangible gain for black people in the last 20 years in Illinois? And people flipped around and flopped around, and that was the answer. And it's crazy because people who live in bad neighborhoods or who live in challenges or who look at all the stuff tell us that they are fighting to save the safety net. But then what we saw, Roman, was that with the safety net during COVID, that there were holes in the safety net. So what were they doing? What have they been doing all of this time? Yes, there is a problem calling people out. And then the challenge is, as black folks, we got a problem internal and external, right? So the internal problem is we're trying to figure a lot of time. We got all of these external forces placing pressure on us. I think that one of the things that has happened for us with the black elected officials is that they have become comfortable being Democrats first before they are black. And then they are always, and because they don't lead the party, they got a leader on Pulaski and somewhere else leading them, and their party first. They've confused our interest with the interest of the party. And so when someone like me comes around, then I become labeled a troublemaker because I'm just not going to go along, get along. Now, as a former lobbyist, I had the intimate details of how the sausage was made. And what I realized was that most of the times the elected officials are not putting the sausage together. They are kind of at the end once it's baked.
But what they're telling their constituents while they're putting the sausage together or not trying to put the sausage together.
I don't think they're not. I think that, quite frankly, we've been so used to losing that we don't really know what a win. Right? We think that cannabis is the perfect example. Much love to Jahan Gordon Booth, much love to Toy Hutchinson. Both of them worked very hard to get the social equity component into the cannabis bill. But the fact of the matter was there was a plan to make millions and millions and billions of dollars without us in it. And so our black elected officials, the win for them was even getting us mentioned in the bill. Whereas the white guys was chopping it all up, and they think about it, Roman, they're making like $19-20 million in tax.
Have a black woman that is the lieutenant that went around talking about the bill, and not one of them even got a chance to read it before passing it.
Well, I think that's they had a chance to read it, but I'll tell you, Roman, the challenge is I call us black lollipops, right? So we traded away, we get excited over emotional political stunts. So I used to be how can I put this? I was the field director for Governor Pat Quinn when he won his election in 2010. And I got to see the lieutenant governor position up close. And while I was there, because a good friend of mine worked for the lieutenant governor, he was excited. He was the chief of staff and all that stuff. And then we realized that the office had no budget, it had no staff, it was tucked off in a corner. But because again, we go for the raw and the emotional, we said we'll accept. We gave JB Pritzker a pass because he gave away a position that literally doesn't amount to anything. It has no budget. Matter of fact, if the governor goes one place, it's another. He goes the other place. But all of this is we get caught up in symbolism, and we got to get past that. I don't think, honestly, Roman, that our elected officials know how to win. I'm not saying that as a diss. I'm saying they think if they can get a social service program or a training program out of any multi-million dollar deal, then they feel like they have won. That's not a win.
The most memorable moment on your show is you called out Illinois State's Attorney Kwame Marul.
Kwame Raoul, he
Yeah,
was
Kwame
not
Marul.
the attorney general at the time. He was state senator.
State senator.
Mhm.
But so much that he challenged you to a fight outside the studio.
Fisticuffs.
Are black politicians who are called out by the black media feels a sense of loyalty to defend them despite their wrongdoing?
Let me back up. I want to circle back to the Kwame Raoul moment, which might have been one of the most famous moments in my tenure. And let me say that that interaction with Kwame was probably at the lowest point of our relationship. Start with the fact that Kwame, 10 years before that, identified me as one of the up and coming people in Illinois who would be changing the way black Illinois was working way before he was a state senator, all of that stuff. So let's say that Kwame and I started here, then over the course of some political, we fell off. And that was probably the lowest point. From that point, Kwame and I had an opportunity to interact. And I'll be honest with you, Kwame had an opportunity to screw me over, and he didn't. As a matter of fact, he was a much bigger man and actually stepped forward and really stood up for me in a situation that could have been very tense. And from that moment, I said that Kwame was the example, right? That was the example of how it works, where we may have been on the wrong side, but then when we saw it was time for us to come together for something that could be for the benefit of our people, we did. So, I think people look at the Kwame situation and want to point to the worst part of it. But I think the thing that people should look at with the Kwame situation is what can happen when two black men get together and say, hey man, we're gonna stick it to the white guy, and let's say not stick it, we're gonna do our thing together. So I think that Kwame Raoul has displayed himself to be a bigger man than me in some cases. In the situation, I would not have been. I would tell you, though, that there is an offense that comes to black elected officials when they are challenged by black people. There is this underthought that we are supposed to, our goal as being black is that we're just not supposed to say anything when something bad is happening. And I think I used to subscribe to that. Like, don't front the black person up, but the black elected official has to recognize that they have an obligation to the community first. And I think that is something that we've got to get to, because once you're a black elected official, once you get elected, you can have all the issues you down Ungawa Black Power all you want. But then when you get in and you don't have a support network, you don't have finances, you don't have all of those different things, then our elected officials wind up not being owned by us, right? We need to own our own elected officials. Quite frankly, black elected officials get elected and then we don't ever have, because they make sure they don't have anybody to run against them. And so if there's nobody to run against them.
That's one of the things that I said on the show repeatedly, even with politicians. Mm-hmm. I'll use Governor Pritzker as an example. They come to the black neighborhoods, go to the soul food place, they eat neck bones, collard greens, candy yams, black eyed peas, but they go back to Springfield and guess what? They eat shrimp, they eat whatever.
You sound like you've been listening to the show, man.
But here's the question:
shrimp and lobster,
right? But here's the thing, Mace. We accept that, but
no, you accept that. I don't.
Well, I'm just saying, as a people, we accept that. Our voting bloc. But how can you say we don't know? It's kind of like
we're doing inside baseball. Let me just say this. I would tell you that until I went to Springfield and saw how Springfield went, I had no clue what went down in Springfield. None, not at all. It was only after being there and being a lobbyist and having the expense account and being like, yo, we can go and have dinner and we can do all of these different things. But the average person doesn't know. Because when do you see that? Like, we talk inside baseball. So obviously people have not seen that. I don't know if people know what goes on behind the scenes, but I know they can look at the results. And the results are limited for at best. Black people are last in all 16 economic indicators in Illinois. If I'm a black elected official, I'm not satisfied until we're first in all.
The phrase "what's in it for the black people" have been repeated over and over again on your show. As you look outside these walls, a black person would say, "I don't see what's in it for me," because people is just all talk, no action. My community is in shambles. I have a 50-50 chance of coming home alive because of violence.
50-50. That's a 50-50. That's not true. No, I just want to be honest.
No. What is the percentage now?
Okay, so
You have a
you have
50-50
100. No, it's you have a 1/1000th of a chance to be killed. I think it is if you live in a certain neighborhood. It's not that. It's not 50-50. So let's just be clear. It's not 50-50, but it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. So I'm with you on that. I don't know if there is. See, that's the whole point, Roman.
But let me finish the question. Some people would say that I don't see a damn thing in it for me in the black community, despite Hispanics taking over. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that we have lost our ability to fight for our self-interest or understand what our self-interest is. I think the summary of it all is black folks have confused our self-interest with the self-interest of the Democratic Party. And so essentially, black people think that when the black elected officials thinks that when the Democrats win, we win. We don't win when the Democrats win. We win when we say what are our specific issues. The Latino community has done a very good job of mirroring what we used to do, actually co-opting. They used to be teamed up with us, co-opting what we did, and now they have moved on and they have now succeeded in doing what we used to do, which is the advocation for themselves. So I think that the black community, we are doing a poor job of advocating for ourselves. And I think we let our politicians off easy. I do.
The phrase "Black Lives Matter." People are saying it, however, don't know what it means while saying it. In 2020, blacks are divided, as you were saying, instead of being together on issues pertaining to our community. We allow some others control the narrative of our issues. What about black on black crime matters too? We sit there and we say Black Lives Matter. People say all lives matter. But now you see what's really going on, that when we were protesting about police brutality, the narrative quickly changed to defund the police. And we allowed that. Nobody didn't say, whoa, 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 wait a second here. We're with you, but this is our fight.
We're not with you, they're with us. I think, Roman, what you see is the same thing that happens typically. The pain and suffering of black people is used to advance the causes of other people. People, people benefit from our pain and suffering. Let me go start with Black Lives Matter. I think Black Lives Matter, initially when it came out, we all were saying it. Everybody was buying shirts. Everybody was buying t-shirts. And this was way back during the Trayvon and all of that. And then I think as things slowed down and we started to look at who Black Lives Matter, the organization was, then black folks started to be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Because when you looked up black, so let's be clear. The three words, Black Lives Matter, it's very difficult for anybody to argue against those three words. If you turn those three words into the name of an organization, then essentially what you've done is supplanted, you've put your name over the whole entire movement. And so now, three words that no black people can, what are we supposed to say? No black lives don't matter? So now Soros and his crew was smart enough to own that name, fund it, and then use that. But what you find is that Black Lives Matter, and quite frankly, is being manipulated by white folks who have alternate agendas, who can then come under that banner, do all of the things that they do, and then scream Black Lives Matter, and the connotation to the American people is it's us. Look, I was watching all the riots. I went to some of the stuff, or excuse me, some of the uprisings. Nobody black. I didn't see anybody black climbing no windows, climbing up no buildings, spray painting. Black folks just don't do that. Not here. And you can't even get spray paint. So,
But why the media portrayed it like it was us?
because it's the media, it's propaganda, and it's why Roman is part of the reason that I had to leave, because our voice is so important. With so few people telling our story, right? With so few people telling our story, if they can silence or minimize the voices of people who are gonna call it like they see it and say, I was like, these ain't black people. We ain't burning up nothing. We're not breaking down windows. We were sharing all that information through our outlets, but again, we don't control our own media. We have to control our own messaging. And I'm gonna tell you, I feel like I have one of the very few last uncompromised voices, right? And to feel like not to be able to say that truth was just not for me. But I'm going to tell you, Roman, it's why what you do, it's why what Earl and Intellectual Radio does, is why all of the shows that you do, because our perspective is gone. Think about this, brother. When back in the day, black folks had the Defender. They came up here, the Defender said, okay, go this way. You lost, black man, go this way. You need to find something, go this way. Then we had radio, and we had all these other, we had Ebony, we had Jet. We have nothing now. Nothing.
Well, it's because, we sold to the highest bidder.
And Roman, I'm going to suggest that I am not mad at someone for cashing out. For build, I'm an entrepreneur. I build businesses.
If you're concerned about the voice,
I'm concerned about the voice. The owner of that company was concerned about his bottom line, right? Most of these businesses we have been built because someone is an entrepreneur, and you're forced into a position. I did not start saying, "Oh, I want to fight for black people." It's like I was forced into this position while I was trying to make money. What's in it for the black people literally started out as what's in it for Maze. And then every time I looked around, I was like, damn, it's another black person having the same problem as me.
I've been knowing you for a lot of years.
And what?
A long time,
Okay.
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you was always concerned about issues from B103, in the streets, Power 92. You always wanted to control the narrative. Always wanted to control the narrative to say you went in these meetings, and I hear Maze yelling, yeah, because you were very concerned that no, I don't want that in our community. So you can't really say you always think entrepreneurship. You was always concerned about the issue.
So let me tell you, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I've always had the secondary mission. I think back to my sister when we had Maze Jack, and I said, it is our number one business is to make money. The second thing is to teach basic job skills to at-risk youth, right? I had a platform that made young people want to do the stuff I did because I had street teams and we were doing concerts and all that stuff, but there was always an underlying mission. Every time that I have always had an opportunity to bring black people in, I have. But at the same time, brother, it has to do with the fact that I still wanted to build a successful business. I was not like that was secondary. The first thing for me was to build a profitable business. Because if I don't have a profitable business and I can't take care of my kids and my family, then you're gonna be talking about me and my kids being outside doing crazy stuff. So that always said, put the mask on myself first. And then after I put the mask on myself, then I want to help other people. But Roman, I think that what happens oftentimes is that those people that built those legacies, they built the magazine, who built Ebony, who built Jet, they didn't build it. They built it because they wanted to see themselves in the news. They wanted to see, and then it became an icon. It became something that people became to rely on. Again, I'm going to use it the same example as the morning show. I think people tuned in initially because they were like, who is this loud man? I can't stand him. What's wrong with his voice? All this stuff. And then as the information started to flow in, then it became a necessity for people. And then people were like, you can't do this. You can't. I didn't have no plans. I didn't plan to be Mr. What's in it for the black people. I was really trying to make some money and do my thing. But I was forced into a position. I had an idea. that idea, people started putting pressure on me to make that happen. And so I think it's the same thing, man. We just gotta own our narrative. And I'm always one to control my fate. My number one rule is never let someone else control your fate. And so that's what you see.
We're talking about the narrative. And I said this on my show over and over again. Where is the Nation of Islam? The Black Israelites, the Black gangs that say people are misguided. We're brotherhood. We have sisterhood out there on the streets. Again, all talk, no action. Do we in the Black community need to stop funding them and defund these organizations that say we speak? You know, there are some Black leaders out there say they speak for the Black community. And where are they?
I would ask.
And another thing, H. Rap Brown, one of the Black Panthers, said in his book, only us can protect us. And that narrative stands still today, because when you challenge the narrative and challenge these brothers, they're saying we're not the protector or the savior of the community. Well, hell, you didn't say that when you were on the corner of 63rd and College Grove selling Final Call and bean pies, or Central and Madison doing the same thing.
Okay, so let me start here. I think you cannot put the Nation of Islam in the same. I think you've mixed a whole bunch of people there. First of all, the Nation of Islam does not get federal funding.
I didn't say
okay,
federal
we said
funding.
Should we stop funding?
No, right? What I'm saying, the Black community.
The Black community doesn't fund the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam.
But why are they out on the streets selling bean pies?
Because they're funding themselves. Here's what they're doing.
But we're still buying them. I'm not Nation of Islam, but I buy Final Calls and bean pies.
You also buy Coke, Sprite, McDonald's, AT&T. You buy a variety of products. So let me say this. Let me start here, and I don't really want to denigrate the nation.
I'm not saying denigrate the nation. I'm just saying me personally. And I'm not saying Maze or Intellectual Radio. I'm saying me. I am sick and tired of people talk. It's all about talk. There is no damn action. When it boils down to it, you see other races saying, okay, we're about to get down. But we sitting there like, like stone face, like deer in the headlights. And people are saying, you talk all this talk, now it's action time. Where are you?
So I think that any organization that stops more people from going into the criminal justice system is doing work. Let's start there. I think that most of the people that I've ever seen from the Nation of Islam have been positive influences in their sphere of influence. They may not be the biggest, and I'm not speaking to the minister, but I'm saying the average. And what I like about the people in the Nation of Islam is at least they're taking care of their own right now so that we don't have a bigger problem. So I'll start there. I think the street-based organizations, I think they've drifted from their purpose. And I think they've drifted from their purpose from almost the inception, right? Whenever the crime and all the other things got mixed in and it started to happen in our neighborhood, then they probably lost that mission. So the moment that drugs were being sold in our neighborhoods by our own people, then to our own people, then we probably lost that group back at that point. I think that Roman right now, there is a war on Black men. And Black men need to step up, but they're not exactly sure where they fit in society. I look at the Democratic Party saying that they wouldn't be where they were without Black women. I look at everything, part of even how I was attacked is that as a Black man defending Black women, how dare I attack a Black woman? So I think one of the things we gotta do is, like, even with this Black Lives Matter stuff, right? It destroyed Black woman. She was a cartoon, and she kind of had thick hips and on a bun,
Mm-hmm.
and she was leading the fight,
Mm-hmm.
and then she had a little kid next to her,
Right.
but you ain't see no black men nowhere in there.
Right.
I think what has happened is the role of, there is a desire to emasculate the black man, whether it is consciously or subconsciously. And as that is happening, we are steadily pushing back. So when you think about the single parent households, and there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that I'm oftentimes not wanting to have because it feels to me as though it only affirms some of the negative things that people would say. But we are still feeling the effects of slavery. And I don't care what you said. And I think even with this trauma and like these black boys getting killed and young people being murdered, it goes back to moms and women saying, please, baby, please don't get out there because I don't want you to get hurt and get killed. And so it creates this thing where women have to step up. I'm going to tell you that there needs to be an awakening of black men. There needs to be an awakening, a spiritual awakening for the black community, period.
Well, I mean, let me put it this way.
Go.
There there are black men that step up.
Mhm.
There's a study in 2016 that was only mentioned on this show, and I checked and double checked that the CDC did that says that black men make good fathers.
Oh no, you ain't the only one. I did that show.
Oh, you did that show
I
too.
did that show,
But see, it got lost somewhere in the translation because a lot of people want to see black men denigrated in a way that they wanted to make us feminine. They wanted to make us less than a man, less than a protector, less than this, but they rejuvenate. So my point is, do you think it's time for the black community to hold the hip hop community and radio stations responsible for the music that is currently airing on the airways, disrespecting black women, encouraging black men to kill each other? Your thoughts on the media and the music role in the violence we are seeing on the streets and de-escalating the black male and denigrating black women?
so I think Roman makes me feel like I want to apologize to C. Dolores Tucker. Right? I don't know if you remember I and Calvin Butts and all those guys. I remember Tupac was like F C. Dolores Tucker because she was saying this music is terrible and it's calling us and it's and I would like to say that I have not been influenced by music, and I would like to say that music doesn't influence our people, but it really does. And I think that it plays out in the type of drugs that people use, the type of activities that they take. But a lot of that starts with the grounding of your parents, right? Like not being grounded by your parents, but your parents putting in an underlying foundation. But even with that, Roman, I'm gonna be honest with you. My father was a preacher. My mother was a pastor. I smoked weed because of Dr. Dre. Right? Like when the Chronic came out, I was like, man, I guess this is a popular thing, and I guess, and then I felt cool, etc. I think we have got to reclaim our youth, and we've got to even deal with the radio stations because, like, even look at the radio stations now and the stuff that they put. I was listening to something, and they was like, "We gonna murder you with a Uzi, kill you,
Right,
rape your
and
child,
that's
and then do." And this was like 12 o'clock noon, and I'm saying to myself, you know what? I don't want to be approved, but what purpose does this have? Because, and then when I watch these Facebook lives and I see all these kids and
they
I see
emulating it.
they're emulating it, they trying to be a video game with the Grand Theft Auto or all of this stuff. Roman, I'm gonna be honest with you, brother. There needs to be a spiritual awakening in our community, and there's got to be a point where Black folks say all the stuff that's good for white folks ain't good for us. We have essentially taken on all of the worst
But that
of American culture.
but that includes reality television.
I agree with that too. I agree. I don't watch that mess. I don't watch. I don't watch.
This is how black women behave. This is how black men
Beyond
behave.
that, or then it's the Kardashian stuff or the Kylie Jenners and all the kids trying to emulate that because they want an opportunity to. They're trying to live that life. They about that life.
A 20-month year old a 3-year old, a teenager inside her home showing her mom how to dance using TikTok, another teenager relaxing, watching television. Marvin Gaye said in a song, "What's going on?" No amount of award money is bringing the person responsible to justice. However, again, let's call a spade a spade. Some people in the black community want to see street justice. And you and I know what it is, but some people out there don't know what it is. And it's like, why this person is not cooperating? Why that when you hear it on the media saying they're not cooperating, and then all of a sudden you have people that cooperating and saying on Facebook saying, you know who this person is. Why you're silent? You know who these people are.
Cause that Negro will come next door and kill your ass. If you let me just be clear. And I see this is one of these tricky moments where we want to be supportive of our elected officials and we want to be supportive of the black elected officials. But the fact of the matter is COVID-19 let a lot of people out of jail who should have stayed in jail. And those people, once they realize that there is no enforcement, they are on a tear. If you are a serial murderer and you get out and you realize you ain't going to jail, you're going to keep on killing. You're going to keep on killing the ops. You're going to keep on doing and repeat it. Um, I am torn on this issue. I am so torn on it, but I feel like if we need to start to black folks need to be there's no cavalry coming, and we got to start defending our own neighborhoods, and we got to start like they know who the person is, they know who it is, but if the police are gonna let them, if you point at them, you saw the story of the little girl who told on the guy who killed her cousin. He was in jail. He paid somebody $5,000 to go murder her. And the guy went on Instagram and showed the money and was like, I got money for killing this bro. It says to me that everything ain't connected, right? We got a mix of drugs, disinfected, detached people, and there's got to be a moment where the black folks say, close the doors, close rank, let's clean up our own shit, stuff.
You're on the intellectual radio.
Okay.
We don't care about
Let's
this.
clean up our own stuff, and then let's go from there. Now I'm gonna tell you, I was talking to some friends or associates, and there is no consequence for harming black people. There's just no consequence for it. There has to be. Just has to be. And it should not have to wait for the police. I'm sorry. If we know who are the people that are destroying our neighborhoods and destroying our communities, I am for the formation of sports and gun clubs, just like we have block clubs, forming sports and social clubs so that sports and fishermen's or hunters associations and all the concealed carry and all the FOID people on the neighborhoods, and we start to really read like now it's gonna have to be some ranks.
Should we go back to the Black Panther days where people say, you know what, I'm not calling the police, I'm calling the planters to set you straight. Black Panthers used to go around and be the protectors of the community.
I think we have to be careful.
No. I'm not saying I said should we.
Oh no, I'm
consider that or an what's being fished around in the city is auxiliary police.
Auxiliary police.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do auxiliary police. And I guess my thing with the whole thing is you just have to be careful as to who that is and what are the ground rules, right? And whoever that group of disciplinary, like every community at some point had their own discipline, and the police weren't going to come and protect them. I'm not exactly sure, and I think you got to work it out. And I think there's a lot of nuance in there, but I do think that discipline should start at home. I think that you should be more fearful of violating your community from the people in your community than anything the police would ever do. Like if we know who the child abusers are, to me, you should be more worried about being a child abuser and the black folks finding out. And I'm not just talking about the Panthers. I'm talking about everyday citizens. But I'm not for street justice. I'm not for, but I am saying that no one is going to save us but us. And so, Granny, if you got the killer in your basement and the killer is living in your basement and some of y'all got to deal. We got to deal with it. But that's a whole nother story.
I always say, back in the day, grandmom used to get the grandma whoopings out, and I think we need to go to the child detention center and get that switch and start getting some ass whoopings up in there. But that's just
but
me.
by the time you're at the juvenile detention center, you're used to it. You got to get it early.
Yeah, I know. Mayor Lightfoot recently signed the FOP contract without any type of.
She signed that contract? No,
She-
she signed the sergeant's contract.
She signed to Sandra.
Sergeant's contract. She hasn't signed the FOP contract.
They haven't.
No. She
So
signed
why
the
in the
sergeant's
media
and
they're
lieutenant-
saying that she signed the FOP contract?
Show me that. I don't think she signed the sergeant's, like the
The 15,000
non-commissioned-
that sergeant and
Yeah, that
lieutenant
she
contract.
signed. That's not the FOP contract though. That's a different unit.
So why they're confusing the two?
They're not confusing the two. I think you might be confusing the two.
Well, what?
No, because the FOP contract. So there's sergeants and ranking officers. That's a different union. Then you got their sergeants and all the people that wear white shirts. That's a union. FOP is the Fraternal Order piece, the blue shirt stormtroopers. That's who that is.
So my question is, should there be transparency and in the FOP contract, knowing what's in the FOP contract regarding what's going on in police?
I believe in transparency, but what I will tell you is that the police contract is going to be an issue for the mayor because they want to fight. They're itching for a fight, and so they're going to put it out. I think that every concession that I don't think you're going to have to. I think the police will make transparency clear because the things they don't like they're going to put out, and the things that they do like they're going to put out because anything she does that the police like is a negative for the other base. So she's in a lose-lose situation here.
But she put herself in a lose.
Oh, I agree. She came to the city of Chicago and came in whooping ass, didn't make no friends, just said everybody was stupid, thought she was the only person. And now we got to raise the taxes $700 million this year and $1 billion next year. And we still don't know what happened to her. Yeah, she's got a lot of problems. She has got more wars on more fronts than I could imagine. She got to fight the FOP.
But I don't basically fault her. She's part of the blame. Maybe the bigger blame, but it goes down the chain. Her staff members is
leadership is set at the top, and it depends on who she
top,
picks as
but-
her staff, Roman. And I think what's key is the mayor came to Chicago and she probably didn't have the top picks because all the big money people were going with the people who everybody thought, either Tony Preckwinkle or Bill Daley, right?
Mhm.
So she got a second string kind of team that lucked up into the spot. So now you got a bunch of people who have been misfits, who've never run government, never been a part of the inside crew, and now they're all in, but she picks those people. Instead of building an inclusive government that said, hey, have you ever read the book Team of Rivals?
No.
So Team of Rivals is about Abraham Lincoln. And the premise of Team of Rivals was, if you put everybody who dislikes each other in a room and get them all on the same team, you want them all pissing out of the tent, not pissing in the tent. What the mayor did was assemble a team of all her crew, and now everybody's pissing in the tent, and she's losing. The mayor did not do a good job of connecting with the city. She took the social media, the high wind, and took that and never took the time to build a foundation, right? So you start up way up here and you come flying in, but you never built the foundation down here. So when this stuff started going crazy up here, now she done lost the north side because they done tore up the downtown, and the south side she ignored, and now she's trying to double back to the south side because white folks don't care about it, right? They loved her as a black woman liberal who was whooping on some black people. But when there's a white candidate, then she's got to stand up. So I think the mayor is not the mayor's staff. It starts from the top. And I think when you start from the top and you say I'm going to build, Chicago is a ugly beast. And you got to get people who can talk to somebody in all of these corners, or else all of the corners will get together and bite you. And that's what's happening.
During the riots and looting, the mayor,
I would prefer to call it an uprising. But go ahead.
the mayor defended the Chicago Police Department and were very upset at the community residents, saying the police were just standing there, allowing the, as you call, the uprising to happen. Now, as the video has surfaced in the office of Congressman Bobby Rush, officers lounging around, Bobby Rush complaining about his darn gone popcorn and
the unmitigated goal to eat my popcorn.
there is no update regarding disciplinary action of these officers shown on camera, nor the officer that put up his middle finger at the protesters. We're talking about transparency now. What happened? It's been some weeks now. And again, the reason I'm transitioning is you have the FOP contract and she just signed the lieutenant's contract. Your thoughts on why we're not hearing about the disciplinary action of these officers and the one that put...
Because there is a disciplinary action for the officers.
Why?
Because it was a stunt. It was a stunt, Roman. It was a stunt. So here you have the mayor of the city of Chicago who has just let the whole South and West Side go up. She has told us that she was defending the police downtown. They were being spit on. They had bottles and people were throwing feces and urine on them and they had to take it. Right? So she had basically she put all of her resources downtown and left the South and West Sides to be destroyed, turned up, tore up, etc. And Black Chicago, because everybody was watching as their neighborhoods were getting looted and the police were standing by watching. We all saw it and we all knew. I had a copy of the stand down order, which the mayor sent, that said, hey, we're not going to arrest anybody as long as they're not hurting themselves. That went out to all the police. But now the mayor has failed at what happened downtown. And now the white folks are mad. So now she got to say to the black folks, because the white folks up north is mad. So she can't go there. She got to come to the south side. But the black folks like, man, you abandoned our whole neighborhood, our whole joint got torn up. So now the mayor conveniently needs a reason to say that it wasn't her, it was the police dereliction of duty. Pop up with this video of the police officers who have been dropped off at that location after the rioting and looting and uprising has stopped. They were there late, and the place that they were in, the front half of it was rented by Bobby Rush. The second part of it was a security tower. If you go drive and look at the place, it's a security tower that allows you to, the front half was rented to Bobby Rush for his campaign office. The back half was a security office. So now those police officers are there. They didn't break in the office. And the mayor needed a perfect opportunity to throw the police under the bus to say, look, it was them. I didn't blow it. They blew it. Well, you ain't heard nothing because that's why they froze the body cameras, because every cop knows that Bobby Rush will throw you under the bus if you're a cop. So nobody even wants to be involved with them. The reason we haven't seen it is because it was a stunt. That's why.
Why
it was a stunt.
Why you think it was a stunt?
It was a stunt because, yes, they caught. Imagine if I had if I showed 4 minutes of you and I'm not defending the cops, but imagine if I showed 4 minutes of you on an 8-hour shift. You sit down at your lunch and you lay back, and I take that 4 minutes and say, look, these people were doing nothing for 8 hours. Nah, that's not what happened, bro. And it's like, it's easy because we already don't like the cops. And I'm okay with the cops getting slammed or whatever, but let's be clear, like, it drives me nuts that we are such black lollipops that we don't even see. Look, she lost the whole South and West Side. It went up. The North Side did not. She raised the bridges and we had the moats up and it was like everything was protected. Everything came to the South Side and the West Side. And she let it happen. Man, I got videos. Everybody's got videos of the stand down order that said don't stop nobody unless they're hurting themselves. So if you don't have that and I give you a video of these people laying around, then guess what? Now I can tell a whole nother story. But now what they got is an aggressive police union president who like, okay, freeze the cameras and freeze the phone calls, which Joe Ferguson did, and they're gonna play that, and it's gonna be a problem. That's probably why you see Eddie Johnson stuff coming out now.
What's next for Maze Jackson? How people can get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me. Look, first of all, I'm not going anywhere. Starting on Wednesday. First of all, I want to be clear. I don't know how many times this has happened, but I don't know how many Black folks have been in a situation where you've been pressured to compromise yourself. You say, instead of compromising yourself, you're going to bet on yourself. Have the confidence to walk away, go to your bank, pay to put your voice back in the space, and believe that the audience that you cultivated will come with you. I don't know who's left the station and said, I'm going to buy my own and stop.
I'm getting out.
You getting the sign? You got to go.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, catch me, GBX 1570 AM, the Maze Jackson page, or you can get me on YouTube Live.
That's going to do it for the Drive at 5. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer. Wonder who's
Big Earl in the building.
And also Counting on Chicago. Thanks for sponsoring us. Have a good week, everyone.